Guys, Doug with the Matic Rifleman here. So today we're going to be taking a look at the terminology and operation of a Glock pistol. We'll be using a Glock 19 for the demonstration, but this will of course apply to all Glock pistols that I'm currently aware of, with obvious exceptions to slight variations for different departments and agencies. But generally speaking, everyone's using the same type with different flavor Glocks, so this should be applicable to most people. This is a stock Glock 19. This is a generation 4. The different generations will have slight changes, but generally speaking, this will all be more or less correct. That being said, of course, this is only directly applicable to Glock pistols. However, it will be generally applicable to most striker-fired pistols and many of the handguns you'll see out there. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to, and also it goes without saying, this is for people that don't know. If you do know and this isn't helpful for you, that's fine. Feel free to share this with people that are new to firearms and might need help with this terminology. With that being said, we're going to start with the grip. The grip is where you will maintain the majority of the control of the weapon system. It is right here. Of course, you want to hold that nice and high and tight. Then inside of the grip, you have the magazine well and port. That is where your magazine is inserted into the pistol. You want to always verify that your magazine is seated when you do so. Here we have the magazine release, which you saw me just press. As this button right here. Pressure on that button into the pistol will release your magazine, so you can remove your magazine. Once you remove the magazine, we are going to come to the slide. The slide contains the majority of your firing components of the weapon system, i.e. your barrel, guide rod, striker, etc. Your slide is what manipulates rear and forwards to run the action of the pistol. We're going to go ahead and lock it back by putting pressure upwards on the slide release or slide lock. Different people will refer to it as the slide release or slide lock. The term is used interchangeably. It really doesn't matter. It does both functions, of course. Upwards pressure will be applied to this while pulling the slide to the rear. That will allow us to rack the slide back and lock it open. Of course, we are going to use the slide serrations, which are these grooves here on the back of the pistol. Some pistols will also have them in the front. And that allows the shooter to better manipulate the slide. I'm going to demonstrate here how much movement there is in the slide stop or release. It's not very much. We're simply going to retract the slide slightly to the rear to show you how much it drops, and that is how much movement there is in that component. As you can see, there's not very much. Now let's lock it back again to demonstrate slide release. So to function as a slide release, you simply push down on the slide stop, and that will let the slide reciprocate forwards. So coming to the front of the weapon, we have the accessory rail. This is used for mounting lights or lasers in some cases. In the front of the weapon, we have, at the very front of the slide, we have the guide rod and the end of the muzzle. The muzzle is the portion of the barrel that allows the bullet to come out, or where the bullet comes from. We will show you that later when we do the field trip portion. Right there inside of the muzzle, we have the crown. The crown is this little section right here. Going the right way? Yeah. Where you see that slight angled cut, that is the last interaction between the bullet and the barrel. Directly above the muzzle, we have the front sight, which is this piece right here. Then you use that in conjunction with the rear sight, which is right here. And of course, you use those to align for a sight picture and to align the weapon with the target. Down here, we have the trigger of the weapon system. This is what actuates firing of the weapon. Of course, before messing with that, we're going to verify that we have no ammunition in here. Actuation of the trigger is achieved by rearward pressure actuating the trigger. The trigger is automatically reset under recoil by manipulation of the action, as you can see here. We're now going to go into breakdown of the pistol. So to break down, actually, before we get there, let's go ahead and go over the magazine. So here we have a standard Glock 19 magazine. We have the magazine body, magazine base plate, and the magazine follower. The magazine follower is what, under spring tension, pushes the bullets up into the weapon system to feed it. To load the magazine, of course, we're going to use dummy caps here, or snap caps here, which are fake stand-ins for bullets. To load the magazine, you will put pressure downwards on the top follower and or bullet. Push down and back. That will load your first round. And then I like to use my thumb to push the base of that lead cartridge down to make a slightly easier experience to load the additional. Oh, so these are very worn from me using them for practice, but pushing down on that top bullet will allow to use the base of the next cartridge to depress it all the way past the magazine lips and seating that bullet back. The magazine lips are these pieces right here that you see extending up and holding onto the cartridge. And they are used to maintain the cartridge in the magazine and to help guide the bullet forward during feeding. We're going to reload that so we can go over the loading and clearing of the Glock series pistol. So in order to load the Glock series pistol, you're going to obviously keep your finger off the trigger and keep the weapon oriented in a safe direction, which it currently is. You're going to take your loaded magazine. Actually, first, we're going to retract the slide to the rear. In order to do that, as discussed earlier, we're going to keep the weapon pointed in a safe direction with our finger off the trigger. Actuate any safeties if they're present on the pistol. Of course, with most Glock pistols, they are not present. But if you have them and they do not interfere with manipulation of your slide, then go ahead and engage them. Since we don't have them, we're going to apply upward pressure on the slide release, and we're going to pull the slide to the rear. That will lock our slide open. At this point, we will take our loaded magazine and insert it into the pistol grip or magazine well. Mag well being where the magazine is inserted. We will verify that the magazine is seated fully by pulling on the base pad or the base plate of the magazine and verifying that it is in fact seated. Its failure to come out of the pistol is how we can tell that it is seated. If it were not seated, it would look more like this, and it would come out and you'd be like, okay, that is not seated. Go ahead and fully seat it. We will then depress the slide release, allowing the slide to go forward, and the weapon is now loaded. You can verify that it's loaded by slightly pulling back on the slide and verifying that you have a cartridge loaded. Now that we've gone over that, we're going to go over clearing procedures. You will clear the pistol by keeping the weapon oriented in a safe direction with your finger off the trigger, depressing the magazine release, and retracting the magazine. This will ensure that we do not load any more ammunition. And now to clear the weapon of the remaining ammunition, we will pull the slide back while maintaining upward pressure on the slide lock or release to lock the action open. Verify that any ammunition that was in the pistol came out, and then you will physically observe that the chamber, breech, and magazine well are all clear of ammunition, which they are. We have now successfully unloaded the pistol and verified that it is clear. Now we're going to go into pistol breakdown. To break down and or field strip the pistol on the Glock series of pistols, you're going to need to point the weapon in a safe direction and pull the trigger. Then once you've done that, which we'll do that now, weapon in safe direction, trigger pressed to the rear. With the trigger in the rearward position here, you are able to slightly retract the slide and pulling down the takedown levers on either side of the pistol. Once you do that and let the slide forward, the slide comes off. So you're going to slightly pull back the slide, pull down the takedown levers, and now the slide comes off, just like that. Setting the frame down, the frame being this portion. This is the registered portion of the weapon. That is the legal firearm. This is your slide before field stripping. To field strip it, you will take your guide rod and press it slightly in, pulling it up, and that will allow it to come out. Barrel, you push slightly forward and pull up and out, and that will allow your barrel to come out. This is your field strip slide, and here you can see some of your workings of the pistol, to include your firing pin block and your striker. Placing that aside, we have the guide spring and rod assembly right here. This is what allows the control of your slide to provide some resistance rearwards under recoil, also to ensure that it goes fully into battery upon reloading the weapon system under firing. Here we have the barrel and the locking surfaces of the barrel. The chamber here to the rear is what you're verifying is clear when you're clearing the weapon system. That is where the ammunition is loaded into. Here on the bottom you have your feed ramp. That is where cartridges will load up into the ramp and into the chamber. This whole portion here is the barrel. It is rifled to help with, you can see the grooves. See if I can, yeah, you can see the grooves right here inside of the barrel. That is what stabilizes the projectile before flight. And then you have the muzzle here. That is, so bullets go in this way, come out this way. Here in the frame, this is all pretty simple. This is all of your trigger control stuff, as well as your slide guides and your ejector. This is what your empty cases will bump into and get flung out by under recoil. Here in your slide, this is your extractor. This is what actually, this is the little hook that physically pulls out the cartridges of the barrel. Let's see if we can demonstrate that here. It's kind of challenging to do on video, but basically that little piece hooks onto your hooks onto the rim of the case and pulls it rearwards and into the ejector. That's what allows the cartridge to be extracted out of the barrel and then kicked out of there. We'll demonstrate that once we get the pistol back together. To reassemble it, you'll simply take your barrel and drop it back into place. And then you'll take your guide rod, which went ahead and slid over here for us. You'll take the front of the guide rod, which is this plastic piece right here on the Gen 4 pistols. Now on the Gen 4 and 5 pistols, this is a captured guide rod. On Gen 3 and earlier pistols, it is not, which means that the spring can come off the guide rod. That's totally fine. It's very simple to put back together. These later generation guide rods are a little bit different. So simply seat that into this ring right here and depress it. Everything's basically just a reverse of your earlier orientation. Once you have your slide reassembled in this configuration, you can go ahead and line up these little grooves right here with these grooves right here and simply rack the slide onto the weapon. And that's it. To demonstrate what we talked about earlier, that bar right there is what pulls back on that cartridge, and then as you pull it backwards, that little ejector bar is what hits it and pops it out of there. You can see it right there at the base of the breech face, protruding out just a hair. Alright guys, that is pretty much everything there's to know about the terminology and manipulation of the Glock series pistols. Hopefully this is helpful for anyone out there that is a new Glock owner. This will hopefully make things a little simpler to understand as I talk about these pistols in videos to come. That being said, if you guys found this video helpful, or if you think there's someone it could help, feel free to share, like, and subscribe to be around for the next content to come out. Again, this has been Doug with Matic Rifleman, because everywhere deserves good and capable riflemen. Y'all have a blessed day.